And how are my listeners doing once again? We're at Psalms chapter 59, verse 7. Behold, they which belch out with their mouth, swords are in their lips. For who, say they, does hear? Notes. Well, at this time, Israel will cry to God for deliverance because they realize that now the God of Israel is their only hope. The Antichrist will actually begin to taunt their appeal. Get on down here and bring yourself on down here, God. We need to settle some things. What an arrogant nitwit. That's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. Verse 8. But you, O Lord, shall laugh at them. You shall have all the heathen in derision. Notes. Well, the Lord's disdain for the Antichrist is referred to with the brief comment, laugh at them. God does have a sense of humor, and whenever you compare a gnat to a 747, it's something to laugh at. And of course, the devil is little more than a bug. Verse 9. Because of his strength will I wait upon you, for God is my defense. Notes. Well, as David says these words, Israel's going to be saying things very similar to that at the coming time. Verse 10, the God of my mercy shall prevent me. God shall let me see my desire upon my enemies. Notes. Now this was fulfilled in David's lifetime. It will have a greater fulfillment regarding Israel in the last days. At the time right now, most of the world could be constituted as an enemy of Israel. I mean, right now. Most of it is just simply against her, but no matter. Israel will ultimately prevail because she will cry to the Lord, and He will come to her rescue. Now, well, it's the second coming. I mean, just as simple as that. Get ready for it. Verse 11, slay them not, lest my people forget. Scatter them by your power, and bring them down, O Lord, our shield. Notes. In other words, David's prayer, very interestingly, is that the Lord will defeat the enemy in such a fashion that all will know that He is the Lord who has done such. And to be sure, this is exactly what will happen at the Battle of Armageddon. As a matter of fact, God is going to turn back a sixth part of them just so they can go and say, hey, there's a God in heaven, and He whipped the monkey snot out of us. Verse 12, for the sin of their mouth and the words of their lips, let them even be taken in their pride, and for cursing and lying which they speak. Notes. Well, it should be noticed that the sin of all three, Saul, the religious leaders of Israel, and the Antichrist, is going to be pride. They just think that they're just the hot stuff, and it's just going to not work out for their benefit. Verse 13, I guess you could say that pride is the capstone sin of all sin. But anyways, verse 13, consume them in wrath, consume them that they may not be, and let them know that God rules in Jacob unto the ends of the earth, Selah. Notes. Now God doesn't rule in Jacob presently in the way that He wants to. However, that is going to change in the not-too-distant future. As an aside, it doesn't say that God rules in Muhammad, etc., etc., etc. But anyways, verse 14. And at evening let them return, and let them make a noise like a dog, and go round about the city. Notes. Oh, this is kind of similar to verse 6 right there. Verse 15. Let them wander up and down from meat and grudge if they be not satisfied. Notes. Well, this verse right here speaks of the apparent near victory of the Antichrist over Jerusalem. Even though some 2/3 of Israel will have already been destroyed, still the Antichrist will grudge and be not satisfied until all of Israel is destroyed. He's going to be sorely disappointed. You can read this in Zechariah chapter 13, verse 8 as a side note. Verse 16. Had a cough there. Sorry about that. But I will sing of your power, yes. I will sing aloud of your mercy in the morning, for you have been my defense and refuge in the day of my trouble. Notes. Now prophetically this speaks of the day of Jacob's trouble, found in Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7. Despite the power of the Antichrist, the power of the Lord is going to be far much greater. Therefore, David, as well as the Messiah, has plenty of good reasons to sing of such. Verse 17, Unto you, O my strength, will I sing, for God is my defense and the God of my mercy. Notes. Well, what an unusual and very beautiful passage signifying God's strength and defense, which He gives not only to Israel, but to everyone who loves Him. Chapter 60 now. O God, you have cast us off, you have scattered us, you have been displeased. O turn yourself to us again. Notes. Well, we have quite a change of pace right there, don't we? This psalm was written by David when he fought the enemy in a place called Zobah, which is in Mesopotamia. You can find this little story in 1 Chronicles chapter 18, verses 1 through 5. While David fought up north, Joab was fighting in the south, and it took him some 6 months to defeat the enemy. Well, David cries to the Lord because of all the problems. Verse 2, You have made the earth to tremble, you have broken it. Heal the breaches thereof, for it shakes. Notes. The greater fulfillment of this prayer and prophecy will be during the time of Jacob's trouble and his deliverance out of it. During the Great Tribulation, the earth will literally tremble. As a matter of fact, there's going to be a worldwide earthquake, and I guess you could call this the big one. Verse 3, You have showed your people hard things. You have made us to drink the wine of astonishment. Notes. Regarding David, he was astonished that it took Joab so long to win the victory over the Edomites. However, the greater fulfillment pertains to Israel, who will be reduced to astonishment when the Antichrist breaks his 7-year covenant with them, declares war, and threatens their very existence. People think that Adolf Hitler was bad. They have no idea as to who they're messing with. Verse 4, You have given a banner to them who fear you, that it may be displayed because of the truth. Selah. Notes. Now prophetically this speaks of the Battle of Armageddon, when the Messiah will be Israel's Jehovah Nissi. And of course I mean Jehovah Nissi, this is talking about the Lord being our banner. Israel's only hope in the battle will be this banner. Little by little she will draw around this banner, and so should God's servants in all times and in all circumstances. In other words, you got to get to praying. You got to let God know what's going on, not because He doesn't know, but because you need to let Him know and have faith in Him. Exodus chapter 17, verses 8 through 16. A little side note right there for you. Verse 5, That your beloved may be delivered. Save with your right hand and hear me. Notes. And to be certain, the Lord will hear Israel, and she will be delivered from the Antichrist. Not only are they God's children, but God has set it upon Himself to make Israel His own personal stomping grounds. And from that point on, that's the way it's going to be as far as the Word of God is concerned. Anyways, verse 6, God has spoken in His holiness. I will rejoice, and I will divide Shechem and mete out the valley of Succoth. Gilead is mine, and Manasseh is mine. Ephraim also is the strength of my head. Judah is my lawgiver. Notes. Now these passages dogmatically proclaim the fact that God has drawn the boundaries of Israel. And this means that this area doesn't belong to anyone else but the Jewish people, God's people, and God Himself. So all those people that are trying to cut up Israel and give a slice here and give a slice there. They are inviting the wrath of God. If you don't believe me, read Joel chapter 3, verse 2, and listen to God's response. There are few things that tick God off more than His people being treated like they're just worthless. Verse 8, Moab is my washpot. Over Edom will I cast out my shoe. Philistia, triumph thou because of me. Notes. Now, Moab and Edom, they make up the modern Jordan area. The Philistines have long since ceased to exist, with the Palestinians, so-called, occupying the Gaza Strip, which is a small part of the area that the Philistines actually once occupied. The Lord is saying here that the enemies of Israel will all be defeated and will be forced to recognize Israel's place and position, all because of the Lord Christ Himself. Now, David was having problems with these areas, and the Lord is merely telling him that the day is coming when these problems would be ended, and they're going to be shut down forever. What a glorious day that's going to be for Israel, for her to finally have that land grant that was given back in Genesis chapter 12. Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through about 4, if I'm not mistaken. Verse 9, Who will bring me into the strong city? Who will lead me into Edom? Notes. Now this refers to the Antichrist breaking his covenant with Israel at the midpoint of the Great Tribulation and actually declaring war on her. Israel will then flee to the strong city, which is located in ancient Edom, and which corresponds to the present-day Petra. You can go up on sites like YouTube and Google Petra, and instead of the Christian rock band, which you're no doubt going to see dozens of articles about, it's this big rock-like structure with a fissure that runs through it where the people of Israel are going to be running. It's a literal place right there. Verse 10, Will not you, O God, which had cast us off, and you, O God, which did not go out with our armies? Notes. The 10th verse actually answers the questions of verse 9. Because of Israel's backsliding, God definitely did cast them off. However, at this prophetical time, the situation is really about to change. I guess you could say it's going to do a 180, if you will. Verse 11, Give us the help from trouble, for vain is the help of man. Notes. Well, what an unusual statement for the Jewish people to make. The trouble referred to here is a 7-year Great Tribulation, which Jesus said would be the worst ever in the history of humanity. Matthew chapter 24, verse 21. At that time, it seems that no nation in the world will come to help Israel. And yeah, I'm pretty sure the United States itself is going to back out because of this prophecy. However, in a sense, this is the plan of God. With no one to help her, Israel will then cry out to God. So in a strange way, it's going to turn out to be good, even though there's going to be judgment brought down on the nations who refuse. And yes, I'm definitely talking about America as well. Verse 12, Through God we shall do valiantly, for He it is who shall tread down our enemies. Notes. This speaks of the Lord coming to Israel's rescue during the Battle of Armageddon. You can find it in Revelation chapter 19, in order to tread down the enemies. Well, He alone is going to do such. All other nations are just going to simply back down and not come to Israel's defense, which is going to be kind of a good thing, because there's going to be no doubt as to who brought the victory. You're not going to be able to say, well, the United States, the only reason that Israel exists is because the United States helped Israel, for example. But as well, both verses 11 and 12 apply to and should be heeded by every single believer. Truly, God is our refuge, and He alone can overcome the powers of darkness. In fact, He already did it at the cross. And we'll have to pick up in chapter 61 of the book of Psalms. Thank you, and God bless. Bye-bye.